Hey guys, this is John Rivera from the Solid State Gamer with another installment in the weekly Mailbag video series. Welcome back, guys. It's good to be back. I know that it's been a month since any videos have been published on our channel proper, and there's a good reason for that. Actually, plenty of good reasons for that. In fact, unfortunately, the last 2 months have been a very slow period for the website, thesolidstategamer.wordpress.com. And I'm going to go into a little detail about that as to why that is. First things first, the monitor for my computer that I use to make videos and to write articles and cut audio for our various media productions for the website literally caught fire the other day. And I'm not kidding. I mean, there was smoke, there was burning plastic and silicon in the air. It was pretty traumatic. Good thing I caught it before I actually had to clock in for work. It could have been worse. I could have burned my entire place down, but it didn't. So I'd been without a monitor for almost a month, and so I've since remedied that. Now I'm using a dual monitor layout for my machine for the website, and another devastating blow to, I guess, the media production end of the website is you might have noticed that there haven't been any quick look videos or proto watch videos on the channel for a while, for like 4 weeks roughly. And that's because the TV that I've been using, it's a 19-inch set that I was using to record all these videos because I do all this stuff live. I do it on real hardware, I do it live, and I record all of my audio while I'm playing the game. So there are two feeds actually combining into one mix. That's how I usually do it. And it's usually a 1 or 2 take affair. The TV, after 8 long years of being in my ownership, unfortunately kicked the bucket. So that was pretty devastating. It was really my go-to machine for playing stuff. It had the right outputs, it had the right refresh rate for a lot of the retro games that I've been covering on the website, and unfortunately it is no longer with us. So I've since tried to buy a TV. There's a huge debacle about that on Amazon that I'm not going to get into. It's been refunded, but I do have another TV coming to my household, and it should be in within a week or 2. I know that's a long time to wait. It's been almost a month and a half, but I promise as soon as it gets in, I'm going to get it all hooked up and set up and stuff. And I do have a bunch of titles on my list in terms of coverage, like quick look videos and proto watch videos. So don't think that during this hiatus I haven't been doing anything. I've been working hard on researching games and stuff, acquiring new games and doing research on those, as well as I conducted an interview with Michael Price of Indigo Moon Productions and talked to him about the game that he is the proudest of, and that's a game called Fierce Harmony. And you guys might have seen the interview that I conducted with Fierce Harmony's composer, Michael Pummel, who also scored the soundtracks to games like Mission Impossible for the PS1 and N64, also did Steel Harbinger. He did 13 issues of PlayStation Underground, so he has been in the industry for quite some time. Anyway, with that, I interviewed him about Fierce Harmony, as well as Mission Impossible and Steel Harbinger, just to kind of break the ice, as it were. And he was a joy to talk to about his work in the industry. He's a veteran, and he has so much experience, so it was a pleasure to be able to speak with him about the game that he's pretty proud of doing the score to. So be sure to check that out, and look forward to my interview with Michael Price. I'm also working on coverage for Super Mario Maker. I am working on a couple of other reviews in the retro capacity, and I'm also working towards getting a PS4. Unfortunately, the whole monitor and TV dying debacle has kind of set me back on that, but I'm sure within the next month or 2 I will be able to do some PS4 coverage and not just Wii U. So that's out of the way. One last thing, actually 2 last things. Definitely check out the website. Nathan Van Dyke has been toiling very hard to bring it in terms of news coverage. He's really been the saving grace for the website in the time that I've been without a monitor or TV to do these recordings and stuff, and to write articles and the like. So be sure to check out those news articles. They're professionally written. It's all facts, no fluff, and Nathan Van Dyke does a stellar job bringing it with the news coverage. So thank you, Nate. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and you know, keep it up. So ROMcast, speaking, it's been a while since we've done a ROMcast. We will explain in detail during the next one we do, which I intend to continue the ROMcast. I'm not leaving that alone. We will get back on track with that. We just had somebody leave the website, so unfortunately that kind of left me up CAC alley, and I kind of had to recover from that. So that's been a little rough, but we will get back on track. So look forward to ROMcast installments in the future. I will be sure to post on the website when we are getting down and dirty with the ROMcast. And then before we start with these pickups, I just want to say that you might notice that the scenery is a little different from the previous weekly mailbag updates. And the reason why is because we've kind of restructured things around here, and I'm no longer having a camera pointing over my shoulder and just looking at my computer desk with like my ashtray and stuff like that. You know, this is how I want this to be conducted from this point out. And if you guys have any suggestions how I can improve the quality of these videos, be sure to comment below this video when it goes live, and be sure to post when the article goes live on the website. So just give us some feedback, solidstateromcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about this new change. I think it's quite nice, you know, with my console collection in the background, just a few of them at least. So yeah, just chime in and let me know what you think, and give me some feedback. So anyway, on to the crux of the video. So I have 4 game pickups and 1 piece of hardware that I've picked up. And so the first one is Time Splitters for the PS2. Now this game was done by Free Radical Design, and for those of you who do not know, just a little history lesson. Free Radical Design was basically half of the team that created GoldenEye for the N64. Now, half the team left Rare and formed Free Radical. The other half stayed with Rare and Nintendo's hardware at the time, and they created Perfect Dark. And the other half, Free Radical, created this little gem for the PS2. Now this is an early generation release for the system, and it's basically GoldenEye on crack. That's the only way I can describe it. I mean, the story is kind of nonsensical. You're just like, it's a time travel story, but the real core, the real meat to the game is the multiplayer and the shooting gameplay. It's just absolutely solid. I cannot recommend this game enough. And so here's the disc. The disc is in pretty good condition. And when I say disc, I mean it. This is actually on compact disc. As you can tell, the hue of the underside, it's like this bluish cyan sort of hue to the polycarbonate plastic. And the reason why a lot of early generation PS2 games came out on CD was because it was just really cheap to manufacture. And so I think that Free Radical, since this was their first game, that they were trying to keep things economical. And honestly, GoldenEye was like a 50 meg game. I mean, it wasn't really that big in terms of the space usage. They were, I'm assuming, more than comfortable to work within the confines of 700 megabytes, since they were used to using only 50. So yeah, they definitely accomplished something really special with the first Time Splitters, and I'm glad to have this in my collection finally. One last thing, let's get into the manual, I suppose, because I am a stickler when it comes to manual documentation. So here it is, same art, pretty much. It's weird, it shows the system features on here. I don't remember a lot of PS2 games doing that. I could be incorrect though. So here's some of that. It's all in grayscale, nothing really eye-popping. I will point this out though. Title headers are done in this weird curly Q font, and I'm not really sure as to why that is, and I'm not really sure if you guys can actually see that, but here it is for all it's worth. It's a lot different from, let's say, the title text font, it's almost like two different teams worked on the manual. One team worked on the cover, and like the other team worked on the innards. It's just the weirdest thing ever. But regardless, it's a classic. And like I said, I'm happy to have this in my collection finally. So this is Time Splitters, made by Free Radical Design for the PS2, a launch title. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so this gets a little more interesting, I suppose. This is Shockwave, Operation Jumpgate. Now, I ordered this game first because I have a 3DO. I have an FZ1 somewhere around here. Yeah, it's right here. You might not be able to see it. It might be barely in frame, but I do have an FZ1 model, made by Panasonic, of course. That was the model that was like the first one. It retailed at like $700 bazillion MSRP. I'm just exaggerating. I think it came out at like $699.99 MSRP in '93. That's a lot of scratch. Anyway, I've been trying to kind of like, you know, educate myself and immerse myself in the world of 3DO. And so I heard that this game, or this franchise, because it is a series apparently, was kind of one of the more definitive games for the system. So I decided to pick this one up, not really knowing much about the franchise, or that there was one to begin with. And so I bought it, came in, and I popped the game in my system, and it says, cannot detect Shockwave save file. I'm like, well, what does that mean? I just want to start a new game. So it wouldn't let me start a new game, and the reason why is because of the writing right here. Now, as you can see, it says, must have Shockwave to play Shockwave Operation Jumpgate. I'm like, what in the world is this? Now, when I saw this listing on eBay, which is where I procured this from, as well as these two other 3DO titles, there was no picture of the back of the box. It just showed a picture of this, open like this, with the CD underside exposed. And I was thinking to myself, okay, it looks good. I mean, it doesn't have any manual documentation, but at least it has the original clamshell case, which these are pretty interesting. But it didn't say anything about, oh, you need Shockwave, the first one, in order to play this, because apparently Shockwave Operation Jumpgate is not necessarily a sequel. It is the equivalent of a PC games expansion pack. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with this, if you're millennials or whatever, back in the day, and I can't believe I can actually say that now, but back in the day of PC gaming, they had, you know, hit upon hit upon hit of like very popular games. Like, let's say, for example, MechWarrior 2, Diablo 2, StarCraft, you know. So these games, they sold so well, and they were garnering such critical acclaim that the developers thought that this is not enough. We got to keep this thing going. So what they did was, you know, before the days of being able to patch games through online updates or Xbox Live or PSN, and patching in stuff like stability updates, also patching in new content, new campaigns, they would actually develop what that was called an expansion pack. It was just a CD or a disc or whatever format it came out on, and you would buy it at a store. You needed the original game for it to work, but once you installed it, it installed basically extra new campaigns, new levels, new elements of story, and new components, new aspects, like new units, new vehicular crafts and stuff. Like in the case of Brood War for StarCraft, I mean, there's a whole new campaign for each of the 3 races. That's a lot of content. There were a bevy of new units you could use on each race, and the campaign was, for all 3 races involved, was all around very satisfying. Or at least I thought it was. I think that's the finest, if not one of the most stellar expansion pack in the history of PC gaming. But basically, Shockwave Operation Jumpgate is the home console equivalent to what they did in the PC side of things, or the PC realm. The only other example of an expansion pack that I can think of that came out on a home console, and if you guys have any other examples of this, be sure to comment below. I'm always very fascinated with that stuff because it was so rare, it was so few and far between in terms of console-based expansion packs, and this is one of them. This one happens to be on CD, which was common for PC games around the mid to late 90s. The other one I could think of was actually in the form of a cartridge. It was the Sonic and Knuckles expansion cartridge. And that thing is just interesting in and of itself. But anyway, so I kind of got chumped out with this one. I didn't pay too much for it. And as you can see right here, there's a piece of the plastic shell housing that is cracked. And I was like, oh well, whatever. So what I did was I ended up ordering another one that was in better condition. I paid around the same price for this. And then I also acquired the actual game, Shockwave. So let's get into both of these. Alright, so Shockwave Operation Jumpgate, as you can see. This case is loads better than this other one in terms of its condition. Let's open this up. Here's the disc. Pristine condition, not a scratch on it. Here's the front art of the CD. And here's a little pamphlet saying, "Welcome to the future." So this is basically just a pamphlet of coming attractions to the 3DO, what you can expect on 3DO. Basically, reasons why you should go with 3DO. So, this game does not actually have a full manual. It just has a little 3-page leaflet or pamphlet that shows basically how to install the game, how to set it up, what controllers are compatible with it. This game works with the flight stick, also works with the regular 3DO controller, whichever manufacturer you chose to go with, whether it was Sanyo, Panasonic, or what was the other one? Lucky Gold Star. And if you guys don't remember Lucky Gold Star, they're now known as LG. So, but here's the inside of it again. Advertisement for FIFA International Soccer for 3DO. And the back. So, I got that at a reasonable price. It wasn't too much. This one was a little more expensive. I ended up paying like roughly $10 for this. But here it is. The game that started it all. Shockwave. And so Shockwave 1, Operation Jumpgate, and 2, Beyond the Gate, which I might buy in the future, is basically a terrestrial flight combat experience where you're piloting a craft and you're fighting aliens, you know. In other words, a very original story. So here we have just like this voucher, win a free 3DO game possibly. Here's the actual CD. Again, pretty good condition, not a scratch on it. There's the front art. Here's the manual. The manual is just all in grayscale. It's not that. Ooh, this is actually really cool. Some of these manuals for the launch titles for the 3DO, or the early generation titles for the 3DO, actually have a little backstory on the team that actually developed the game. And I always thought that was really cool, because I always feel, even nowadays, I felt that way back then, and I feel that way now, that the folks who work on video games, you know, are really smart, intelligent people. You know, you have to be really smart to engineer a piece of entertainment software. It's not easy, and it takes just as much effort to make a crappy game as it does to make a fantastic, you know, masterwork. So I always felt that the people who were always involved with software design and stuff, art design, when it comes to video games, even the composition side of things, no matter what the facet is, I feel like these people deserve adulation. And for the most part, they never really do. I mean, they have the DICE Summit Interactive Achievement Awards that happen annually, but nothing like that ever really happened back in the early to mid-90s. Didn't even happen in the late 90s. So I always thought that was really cool that the early lineup of 3DO titles tried to give some credit and tried to introduce you to the brilliant folks that actually made this stuff happen. So there's the back side of Shockwave, and here is the front. I always thought these cases were really, really interesting. I mean, they're comically oversized, sure, but imagine if what they wanted to do with the 3DO actually succeeded, and it basically ushered in a one console reality, because that's what they were trying to do with 3DO. The reason why it was so expensive was because, well, you know, the first of anything is going to be expensive. I mean, if you look back to the first Laserdisc players, or the first Betamax players, or first VHS players, they were really expensive. Hell, DVD players back when they first started out, very expensive. But as time went on, the technology would get cheaper to manufacture and engineer. They would be able to truncate the size of the form factor and be able to, you know, shoehorn in more extra features, maybe, you know, video CD playback capabilities. But who knows what the possibilities could have been had this been the only kid on the block. So I think that in terms of a game format, like, I like these cases. They do take up a lot of space, sure, but they just have such an interesting, like, approach to, I guess, the exposition of a game, like the introduction of one. Like, you just look at this case and you're just like, this looks really fancy, you know, this looks like quality. And that's what they were trying to get across. You know, it's a neat little mishmash of this plastic housing right here that stretches all the way down the length of the game, and then the clamshell is basically composed of like a large piece of thick board. Unfortunately, the art is, I mean, this is the art. It's completely exposed. So it's easy to damage the art of the actual game. It's not like jewel cases where it was hidden between behind a sheet of plastic, like, like jewel cases for PS1 games, or even the long box games for Sega Saturn. The art's completely exposed, so that's why I bought these. If you guys are intent on buying 3DO games, be sure to buy yourself some of these. These go for, like, I want to say $5 for 5 of these plastic protector boxes, and they are quite useful. So yeah, these are really nice to have around, because, I mean, they will get dinged up and they will get scratched, and this one already has gotten cracked. I think this case might have just fallen. You might not be able to see it, but there's just a tiny crack on the corner. But better for this to get damaged than the game itself to get damaged, so that's always nice. So that pretty much concludes the game pickups. So I got 3 3DO games. One of them's an extra. I might raffle that off on an episode of the podcast when we do it. I promise I will work towards making that a reality. And then I got a PS2 game. And again, all this stuff relatively cheap. Didn't really pay that much for it. I think the most I spent was, game-wise, on Shockwave. This was a $10 game, and I think I paid $2 shipping and handling on it. So not too much. I mean, 3DO games are starting to go up in value. So my advice to you, if you're intent on collecting 3DO software, strike now rather than later. The prices are steadily going up, so don't be a chump and miss out on the savings. Alright, so the last thing is actually accompanied with the story. So here we have a PS2. I actually got this console for $30, and I don't have the hookups with me, but they are actually stowed away in this case over here, being watched over by my good old Macintosh SE30. And the reason why I bought this is because the family PS2 that was at my parents' place was just given away from underneath me. I figured that after my sister had outgrown the PS2, she was gonna, she's been playing a lot of 360 now. Figured that they just would have been like, oh well, let's give it to Jono, their pet name for me. But they ended up giving it away to somebody else. I think it was a cousin or something. I'm not sure. Regardless, I was pretty upset about it, and they were like, "Oh, we had no idea you wanted it." I'm like, "Well, I, kind of expected that you guys were going to relinquish it into my possession," but that ended up not happening, which is fine. It was a fatty. It was a Model 1 PS2 for North America, so kind of a bummer. But this version works just as well. And obviously this is the new compact model, relatively speaking, so it's got the 2 memory card slots right here, 2 controller ports, 2 USB ports, CD caddy is right here. It's not motorized in terms of the mechanism for popping the caddy out. It's just simple mechanism right there, that little latch that opens it up like that. So not as many moving parts. So this one's not as durable as that fatty model, but it suffices. The cool thing about this though is that on the back, as you can see right here, there's the power output. This one is for the AV out, of course, the composite cables. This one right here is for optical audio. That's actually useful because my sound system supports that. And here, now the fatty model PS2 did not come with a modem packed in. It was actually a separate component that you had to buy for the machine, which is kind of lame actually when you think about it. I mean, my Sega Dreamcast, when we got it, came with a modem out of the box. So I thought that was kind of pathetic for Sony to not have that as a built-in feature, or as a feature that came out of the box. But they remedied that with the Slim model, so it's just built in right there. Granted, most of the games that supported online capabilities probably no longer support these features through their servers, so it's a moot point, I guess, now. But it's just a nice little feature, though. And, of course, you got these little ventilation grates and stuff. But, yeah, that pretty much does it for my PS2 compact model, or Slim. And that pretty much does it for this weekly mailbag. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any comments on the new format, or any comments on when I'm going to be getting on top of new quick look videos and stuff for the website, be sure to comment below this video, or be sure to comment on the article when we post it live on the website, thesolidstategamer.wordpress.com. And you'll be able to find our previous episodes of the ROMcast, our latest program called Channel R, where I pretty much play as a fake radio DJ and play retro video game music for your audio pleasure, I guess. Also our written articles. Be sure to check out Nate's news articles. He does a great job with them. And yeah, don't be a stranger, and look us up. You might like what you find on our website. And that pretty much does it for this weekly mailbag. So this is John Rivera signing off from the Solid State Gamer, saying until next time, guys.